Well, let's go straight then to the Paris demonstrations. Our reporter Liza Kaminov is there. Liza, just tell us where you are in the city and what the atmosphere is like for the moment.
Well, at the moment, I'm at Boulevard des Invalides, so I'm about a quarter way through the 8th protests against the government's pension reform. Now, as you can see behind me, the crowd is marching through the streets, waving the flags of each trade union. The atmosphere appears festive and the people appear very united, but in fact, it's not quite the same mood as the previous protests. There's not quite the same determination and hope, and this is because a lot of the people I spoke to believe that this may very well be the last time that they are protesting against the government's pension reform, because the bill has moved on to the final 2 stages of the legislative process. Now, authorities were expecting about 50,000 to 80,000 people to be on the streets of Paris today, and this may be the case, but visually the numbers look significantly lower than the previous protests. And again, this is because in the past week we've had rolling strikes across the energy transport sector and with the garbage collectors, and it's a lot of days to be striking in a row, so a lot of people simply cannot afford to continue striking, especially now when there's high inflation and a cost of living crisis. At the end of the day, for a lot of people, they just have to make ends meet and cannot afford to lose out on paychecks, which is why we do have significantly lower numbers. And amongst this growing frustration, there is a high chance that violence could break out. There could be clashes on the sidelines. So we are currently being accompanied by a very strong police presence who intend to accompany the crowd all the way to its final destination at Place de l'Italie.
And Liza, as we can see behind you, that pressure in the streets is continuing today, even though, as you say, perhaps in smaller numbers than we've seen in previous weeks. But meanwhile, in Parliament, the government's really hoping it can get this legislation through in the next couple of days.
Absolutely. So today is a very important day because you have 14 MPs from the lower and upper houses of the Parliament who are finalising a final draft of this text, which will then be voted on Thursday, tomorrow, first by the Senate in the morning and then the National Assembly in the afternoon. Now, although when the Senate voted on the bill over the weekend, the process appeared to go quite smoothly, but that was because the Senate was mostly dominated by the Conservative Les Républicains. Now, the final vote tomorrow is still uncertain. We really don't know what is going to happen, and that is because a lot of the MPs, notably the ones from Macron's party, are still divided and they are waiting to see the final version of the text before they can make a decision on it. And as well, the MPs, the Les Républicains MPs who are in the National Assembly, never actually finished debating the text in the first place. So there may be a lot of questions which will be raised tomorrow during the vote. But either way, what we know is that to pass the bill, Macron needs 289 votes. Assuming that all of his MPs from his party vote on the bill, he is still 40 votes short. And that is why he will be heavily relying on Les Républicains to vote and help him pass the legislation. Now, of course, should he fail to gather enough votes, the government has the option to use the 49.3 manoeuvre, but that would be highly risky because it could open the door to a vote of no confidence, and that is possibly the last thing that Macron's party would want right now. And in fact, the government spokesman, Olivier Véran, did assure people a few days ago that they're quite confident that they can gather all the votes and that they will not have to use 49.3.
All right, a crunch week then for the French government. Liza Kaminov reporting for us there from the protests. Thanks very much indeed.